Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our New York Giants preservation meeting for today. Our guest speaker will be Peter Laskowich. Peter is a historian, lecturer, travel guide, and his expertise is New York City and especially the Giants and the Polo grounds. Just with some shopkeeping, next week there'll be no meeting, 4th of July, early weekend. On July 8th, we got the great Phil Mushnick from the New York Post, who will tell everybody what is really going on in the world. He is a straight talker, and a lot of people really agree with him, and there are dissenters as well. On the 15th, we have Doug Greenwald, whose dad, Hank Greenwald, was a longtime announcer for the San Francisco Giants. So he should be a great guest for people in here who still, still follow the Giants. I'm going to get somebody either the last week or the week right after that to talk about the trading deadline on the July 30th. So hopefully on the 22nd or preferably on the 29th, we'll have somebody here to discuss the trading deadline. And on August 5th, we have Dan Faust, who wrote a great book on the history of the Giants from beginning until the championships. So stuff to look forward to. Anybody? One thing did come up. I got an email from somebody. I send out on Fridays the new links and the video from the previous night's meeting. And then I also send out on Tuesday a reminder. The gentleman asked that I send out the reminders the day of. I don't know how you guys feel about keeping it the way it is, or you want me to send it out the day of? Anybody?
I like it the way it is.
Okay.
It's just fine for me, Gary.
I like it.
Why not do both?
There comes a point where I'm not going to remind people 3 times. I mean, we're all adults. How many, can't do it. I don't want to do it 3 times. Sorry, Frank.
Leave it the way it is. It's perfect.
Tuesday is perfect for me anyway.
Okay. Okay. Then we will keep it that way. Frank, I love you, man. I just think 3 times is just mass.
Okay, I'm corrected.
Gary.
I'm corrected. I don't need it for my benefit, but there might be those who do.
Absolutely. No, you don't have to apologize. I'm just thinking it's just too much. With that being said, we have Peter Laskowich tonight. Peter, you will run the meet. You will run your discussion the way you want. If you want questions in between or want to wait till it's over, whatever it is you want to do. But I've known Peter for a long time. I remember meeting him at the 2011 Trophy Tour. But I saw him at other meetings, but he was there with a photographer, took some great shots. And we've stayed in touch, and I always wanted him to come speak. Something always got in the way, and now it's not in the way. So Peter Laskowich, welcome to the Giants Preservation Society for this evening. Thank you for coming to board.
Hi.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks, Gary. And thanks to the group for having me. I've always wanted to speak to the Preservation Society. Gary, I thought it'd be, well, tell me what you think. I've only attended a few of these meetings, but it seems to me that the meeting goes best when people have a comment, they just shout it out. I'd rather be informal than formal. I don't know what other people think, but
Go for it.
if you have a question, it's probably a question other people have. So go ahead.
All right, you're at that.
And if you wait till the end, then it'll probably be forgotten. So I don't mind.
Got it.
All right. Team with the most Hall of Famers. Team with the most historic ballpark. And the team with, by far, more association with sports, ritual, and culture than any other. Baseball's team of tradition is the New York Giants.
Going on at the school. Fire truck and a
Oh, Hendy, would you please turn that cell phone off?
We're good.
Okay. Modern baseball is said to have begun in 1903. The Giants got off to a fast start. From 1904 to 1924, 21 seasons, the Giants won 10 pennants and finished second 7 times, the greatest run in National League history, and exceeded only by their former tenants now on the other side of the Harlem River. The Giants were the most famous, the most popular, the richest, the best. Into the 1920s at least, the Giants were baseball's flagship franchise. Also, the most admired. Who's noticed all the Negro League? How could you not notice all the Negro League teams named Giants? I counted 15. The Backrack Giants, the Baltimore Elite Giants, the Philadelphia Giants, the Chicago American Giants, the Brooklyn Royal Giants. Everybody is named Giants out there. I counted 15. I just gave up. I don't know how many there really are. And in 1925, the National Football League establishes a franchise in New York. Then, as now, its official name. Anybody go past the stadium at the Meadowlands? What's it say on that little brick building? New York Football Giants. You still hear that phrase all the time. And in the 1920s, there was a professional basketball team, a traveling basketball team named the New York Basketball Giants. You needed that qualifier because today, when you say Celtics, you're talking basketball. When you say Canadiens, you're talking hockey. And until 1958, when you said Giants, you meant baseball, not football and not when you said New York Giants, you meant baseball. That lasted all the way. And how about that big team in Japan? And established in 1936. What does that tell you? 1936. They're not the Tokyo Yankees. They share the colors, the uniform, and the name. They're the Tokyo Giants. I picked something up a while ago. I just kind of ran into something. A kid, early 1900s, a kid, obviously now he's a very, very old man, but he's actually passed away, talking about baseball in New York City. Talking about baseball in New York City when he was a kid, early in the 1900s. I'll quote him. The Giants were the big show in New York, and all of us kids dreamed of growing up and joining the Giants. As a kid, I barely knew the Yankees existed. Back in the day when a quarter was a fortune, the Giants were our favorites, and our quarters all went for a seat in the left field bleachers at the Polo grounds. Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
In the Bronx, Hank Greenberg. I loved the Giants because they were winners. Incidentally, how did John McGraw miss out on both of these guys? Both of them. Tryouts at the Polo grounds. McGraw's opinion of Gehrig, 19 years old, unteachable. His opinion of Greenberg, just plain too clumsy. Never make it. Hank Greenberg, McGraw's chance at the first great Jewish star. There must have been murder on Giant fans. I have to drink a lot of this water. Forgive me. Now, the New York Giants have plenty to say about the history and culture of baseball. And the history and culture of New York has plenty to say about the Giants. Stay with me. Manhattan is a little island, 2 miles wide, 13 miles long. Both waterfronts had always been devoted to shipping. Is shipping pleasant? No, it stinks. It's dirty, noisy, and it's rotten. You walk out your front door, it's a circus. All the daylight hours long. Nobody wants to live near shipping. But the island is narrow, shaped like a crayon. The island is narrow. So where would you go if you had the money? Where would you have gone to get away from shipping? Don't all join in at once.
Up north.
Not up north,
The middle.
middle. Thank you so much. Up the middle. And center of this slender island is the middle road, known to you and me as Fifth Avenue.
Oh, my God.
The more money you had, the closer you would live to Fifth. The less money you had, where are the tenements? Where are the old slaughterhouses? The old factories?
Greenwich Village.
On the gas houses.
Where are they?
On the other hand, no, by the water.
Near the Hudson River.
Both waters, both rivers. On the other hand, for the most part, I know there are the exceptions. Don't tell me about Riverside Drive. I know that. For the most part, where were the old mansions? Some of them are still around. In fact, quite a few. Where?
Fifth Avenue.
Where is Saks, Gucci, Bonwit Teller, Chanel, Tiffany? Somewhere on or at least very close to Fifth Avenue. Why do you think that is? So, in 1876, a whole lot of wealthy guys, guess where they lived? A lot of wealthy guys got together. They want to play what was then their favorite sport. Immediately north of Central Park, Fifth Avenue, 5th to 6th Avenues, 110th to 112th Streets. They're going to play there. But in 1883, the National League Troy Haymakers moved to Manhattan, take the new name. They're playing at the old Polo grounds. Well, to us, the very old Polo grounds. For the first several years, terrible team. First year, below 500. 6th place. Awful. But they're a big hit anyway. Big crowds. And the wealthy don't mind. They don't mind. They're often becoming baseball fans. I know it's 15 years later, but J.P. Morgan is said to have been a season ticket holder. The Giants quickly became the team of the established order. Very big with the carriage trade. Red Barber, in his books, likes to talk about the old Giants as the team of the carriage trade. And 2 generations later, granted, but who was that lady? What is her name again? Who in 1957 was the only shareholder to vote in favor of the Giants staying in New York? What is her
Joan
name?
Payson.
Joan Payson.
What is her maiden name? Whitney.
Whitney.
She's one of the Whitneys. Got it? The last remnant of big money
We've got a lot of fire engines. now.
participating directly with the Giants. She was not rich. She's wealthy. By the way, do we all know the difference between rich and wealthy? Elaborated so aptly by Chris Rock. He says, this is some years ago, he said, Shaquille O'Neal is rich. The man who signs his paycheck is wealthy. The Whitneys were wealthy. J.P. Morgan was wealthy. The Giants were the team of money. And how about some of these names? Some of them may be familiar. Barrymore, Cohan, Fairbanks, Hopper, Jolson, Hammerstein, Bankhead, Schubert. Familiar?
Yeah. Hollywood theater,
Early on, not Hollywood, Broadway.
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 Right,
There was
sorry.
no
Yeah.
Hollywood until
What about
1928.
Fifth Floor?
Broadway.
Sorry about that. Yeah, 19. Okay.
That's okay.
Yep.
Now the Giants are the team, and this was fast. By 1890, the Giants are not only the team of the established order, they're the team of glam. Who needs Jack Nicholson? They're the team of the established order. They're also the team of glamour. The Giants are the team of Wall Street and Broadway. Not to mention all the kids in Washington Heights. Through the generations. 180th Street, just this side of the George Washington Bridge, carrying his PAL card, free admission to the Polo Grounds bleachers Monday through Friday, rooting for the Giants, liking Mel Ott, but loving center fielder JoJo Moore was Vin Scully. Vin Scully was, in his words, a big Giant fan. Serious Giant fan. Even Vin Scully loved the Giants. Come on. And in the 1880s, almost immediately after the Giants showed up, Dean of Discipline at Manhattan College, Brother Jasper Brennan, is showing up with a lot of his students, showing up at the Polo Grounds for ball games. He's the Dean of Discipline, and what he says goes. Late in ball games, he's in the habit of forcing his students to get up and move around a little, move those muscles, the seventh inning stretch, direct from the original Polo Grounds, courtesy of the fans of the New York Giants. And in 1888, Ernest Thayer, he's really a newspaper reporter, but he did write this one. Ernest Thayer, although he denied it, likely in the aftermath of a bad Giant loss at the Polo Grounds, writes Casey at the bat. He made Manhattan Mudville. Casey at the bat. Giants. He says no. I don't believe him. 1888, though. Trouble at the Polo Grounds. Trouble at the Polo Grounds in 1888. What's the trouble? Well, the real trouble is about 7 miles south, City Hall. What's the trouble at City Hall? The big shots there are complaining among themselves that the Giants are not kicking in enough free tickets to Giant games. This is always a major mistake. Not enough free tickets to Giant games. What do you think is going to happen in February of 1889? That's it. 111th Street is run directly through the outfield. The Giants show up. Here you go. They are now nomads for the first 2 months or so of the 1889 season. They're playing on Staten Island and in New Jersey. Why not Montana? Nevertheless, before moving to the bottom of Coogan's Bluff in the middle of the 1889 season. They win the pennant anyway, and they go into the postseason such as it existed then for the series of the championship of the world, their version, obviously, of our World Series. Incidentally, our terminology, World Series, is said to have come in honor of the newspaper, the New York World. I doubt it, but you can take it if you want it. Never been proven nor disproven. I'm not going to do that research. Anyhow, their version of the World Series, 1889, the Giants go in against the champions of the American Association, then considered kind of a major league. But there's a problem in those games, and the problem this time is a whole lot of low tactics and dirty play. And the Giants promised they will never play this team again. But in 1890, the Brooklyn Dodgers joined the National League. Yeah, that one's still playing out, isn't it? And in the meantime, the Giants are getting busy getting themselves connected, meaning politically connected. And soon enough, their new owner, his name was Andrew Friedman, if it matters, their new owner is a guy who is heavily involved in Tammany Hall politics. And I suppose we all know that City Hall did not run things, except when it came to 111th Street. Otherwise, Tammany Hall did not run things. City Hall did not run things. Tammany Hall did. And Friedman was very much a Tammany guy. And now the Giants are the team of Wall Street, Broadway, and Tammany Hall. You spell that: serious money, glamour, and power. No other team has ever had so much behind them. Short-term effects. 1904, subway is established in New York City. Heading out to the Polo grounds, trolleys, the elevated subway, including, here's another thing I don't want to research, you can do it, including, so I hear, a non-stop.
Peter, you're frozen.
Express non-stop at 4 o'clock because Wall Street is at 3. Games are specifically 4 o'clock games for the benefit of the guys on Wall Street. And at the same time, and for 2 decades thereafter, there is no rail whatsoever heading to the Dodger ballparks, Washington Park and Ebbets Field. Not until the mid-1920s, when Tammany Hall was out of power. And also this, the year 1900. It is confirmed that now that the American Association is out, they've gone out of business. They went out of business several years earlier. There's this guy who's looking to start a new major league. Well, among other things, it necessarily means, and in fact, by definition, it means there will be a team in New York. But Tammany Hall is still running things, and the Giants are big with Tammany Hall. There's not going to be a team in New York. Figure out why. Because every time the American League found an open stretch of land for a ballpark, Tammany ran a street through it. Every time. In 1900, 1901, 1902, it kept on happening. In the meantime, though, the American League was busy raiding the National League. Napoleon Laskowich is stolen from the Phillies. He goes to the A's. That was too much. This Hall of Famer goes to the A's. He's switching to the American League. Other guys are moving over all over the place. Just like in football in the 1960s, the AFL and the NFL. Okay, there's got to be an agreement here. And as far as the Giants are concerned, it's a bad agreement because they are forced to allow the American League in. But the only place the American League can get is in the middle of Montana again, otherwise known as 168th Street, with no mass transit whatsoever, unless you want to go to the Polo grounds and then walk a half mile. And so it was. The Yankees get started, called the Highlanders, in 1903. And they are team irrelevant. They average all the way to 1919. The Yanks average a fifth place finish. They average a fifth place finish 24 and a half games out. That's a bad team. They're a boring team, but they did have one good season. 1 year and 1 year only, they were in the pennant race, and it happened to be 1904. The Giants win the pennant in 1904. They've clinched. The Yankees have a shot at it. And John McGraw says, not only because he hates the American League, but especially because he hates the Yankees being a half mile away, says, there is no obligation for us to play the champion of any minor league, notwithstanding the fact that the Red Sox beat the Pirates in the 1903 World Series. So in 1904, there is no World Series. The American League cleans that up. There's got to be a World Series, in part because the Giant players were so unhappy that they were missing out on that nice World Series money that the Pirates had told them about from the year before. Okay, there's going to be a World Series, but there's no World Series in 1904. By the way, why are there no questions out there or comments or anything? Is everything okay out there? This is coming through all right?
Flooded with things we never heard about, and we're leaving it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Peter, fantastic information, just fantastic. Just want to add 1904, wasn't that the year Chesbro for the Highlanders? You want to detail that a little bit? It's not really.
Jack Chesbro threw a wild pitch.
Correct.
Yeah, he threw a wild. I heard it was 15 feet over the catcher's head. How does that happen? Was he throwing?
Yeah.
A real spitball did not get started. Eddie Ford, wasn't that his name? Eddie Ford, I think, threw the first real, not Whitey Ford. Right. Wasn't it Edward Ford who threw the first real spitball? And that was something like 1906 or 1907. He wasn't throwing a spitter. So how did that happen? I don't know. Anyhow,
it's a good
they lost.
Yeah. Into 1905, which I'm sure is next. But who
1905 I know about. Because Christy Mathewson had 3 shutouts against the Philadelphia Athletics.
And I was just going to ask if Philadelphia won the pennant in 04, and then I'll shut up.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Peter, I have a question for you, Peter.
I just want to say, I have one. Going into the 1905 World Series, the A's were really a good team. And John McGraw said the A's are, the definition is something that is very costly, but ultimately worthless. The A's are white elephants. And you know they still use that logo. Anyhow, sorry, Gary, go ahead.
Peter, you mentioned Troy.
The Troy Haymakers. And no, the Giants did not bring the trophy and Willie Mays to Troy, New York.
No, that's where you're wrong.
He did?
Of course he did.
Willie Mays did not go there, but the the people in Troy started a campaign, a newspaper campaign that the Giants owed them for leaving Troy and moving to Manhattan. And the Giants agreed to bring the 2010 and they came in 2011 with the trophy to Troy, New York, right before they went to Cooperstown.
I didn't know that. Oh,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
And
Good for the
so
Giants.
everything is squared now, supposedly, between Troy and the Giants franchise.
Thank you for mentioning. That's beautiful.
So I want, if you could talk a little more history, and then we want to hear about your tours and stuff, okay? Because I think
six
some of
more
the people
pages.
would love to accompany you.
6 more pages. I don't think we'll ever get to it. By the way, the Giants go to Troy. They come back to New York all 3 times. Can you imagine? Would the Dodgers dare to come back? Would the Dodgers dare to come back? No, of course they wouldn't. Because we hate.
For those who don't live in New York, Troy is next to Albany, which is about 150 miles from Manhattan.
I do think if the Nets had ended up winning the NBA title this year, there would have been a Dodger presence at the parade.
Why?
Because it would have been the only other time there would be a parade down Flatbush Avenue.
But what would be
what
the
Dodger presence would there be?
Yeah.
Who would come from the Hollywood stars to be a part of the Nets?
Well, I don't know who they would bring, but I guarantee they would send somebody.
No, they don't care.
Magic Johnson, an owner of the Dodgers.
Magic Johnson would march down Flatbush Avenue.
It would be synergy.
I think you'd see some old timers with some Brooklyn Dodger hats, but I don't know. I'm surprised that anybody from the Dodgers would actually show up to a basketball event.
Well, we won't know now because the Nets didn't.
No, we won't.
What did the Dodgers have? What have the Dodgers had to do with New York City in the past 60 years or so? I know the answer to that one. The Brooklyn Dodger bar was hit with a lawsuit by the Los Angeles Dodgers for trademark infringement. Lovely. Yeah, that's what the Los Angeles Dodgers mean to us. Anyhow, sorry. Yeah, back to our story. Where was I anyway?
You're up to 1905.
Okay, well, I'm going to start bouncing around. Good.
Yeah, Peter, I think if you spend maybe 5 more minutes, talk a little bit about your tours and then field some questions, I think it'd be great.
Talk for 5 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to find something good.
Can you talk about Christy Mathewson?
I'd rather talk about the Polo Grounds.
Okay.
Because too many people get it wrong. Too many people get what? Why 260, 270 down the lines and 483 to center field? It's really so simple. 1911, there's a fire at the Polo Grounds. The whole place burns down. It's the day after. It's right after opening day. It's that night. The Polo Grounds burns down. They're going to rebuild, and they're going to do it fast. They rebuild in concrete and steel, and the Giants move in. The Giants move in late June. No labor problems with the Giants. Of course, it is we are talking about 1911. But they are rebuilding in concrete and steel. Work goes on, obviously, through the following winter. But double-decked concrete and steel, like everybody else was building at the time. But unlike any other ballpark, remember the Giants were the most popular team. In 55 modern seasons in New York, the Giants lead the National League in attendance 24 times. Let's repeat that. 55 seasons, the Giants lead the league in attendance 24 times. They're the most famous, the most popular, the best. And unlike any other ballpark, the Polo Grounds in 1911 goes all the way down to the foul lines. all the other grandstands, Ebbets Field, Hilltop Park, all the Fenway, every place, they're only going down maybe a little past the bases. Ever been to Forbes Field? Where did the grandstand end? Third base. Then you had a set of bleachers out there all the way down to the line that came in much later. So when baseball exploded in the early and mid 1920s, the only way the only place the Polo Grounds could grow was straight out. Thus, the bathtub shape that we all remember so well. It could only expand straight out, and it was going to keep on expanding until baseball stopped exploding. 55,000 seats, that's enough. We'll stop here. 483 feet to center field, thus creating the ideal stage for baseball's greatest outfielder, greatest player I've ever seen.
Willie Mays.
Mays' stage by way of the unparalleled popularity of his team decades before.
Peter, your knowledge is remarkable on this.
Well, this is what happens when you do not waste your time doing your homework, studying math, and instead spend it wisely playing pinball and reading baseball books. Clearly, you guys got good jobs. Look what I'm doing. I'm giving classes, lectures, and tours of New York City history. Okay, I'm a member of the bar, but I'm retired. Classes, lectures, and tours of New York City history and culture, sometimes on baseball. My advantage is that I'm the only guy I know, really, I'm the only guy I've ever heard of who was, from a pretty early age, passionate about both. And when I was around 20, I realized nobody is doing any of this. I thought there's got to be books or at least magazine articles and newspapers on all of these connections. And then I realized in 1996, I remember where I was, 36th in Madison on a September afternoon. Not only was there nothing, but the guy who has to write about it is me. And that's what I'm doing. That's what my book is about. And yeah, I give classes, lectures, tours. And I wanted to say, Gary, if this is the Giants Preservation Society, we're carrying the torch. I don't want your money. Let's do a tour. We'll go walking around and we'll figure something out.
In the meantime, Peter, we do have a question from John.
Sure.
And by the way, your thoughts just there, it was very, very kind of you.
Oh, I'm happy to, hey, I'm a member. I'm happy to do it for us.
John, go ahead.
Peter, great information. Just curious, where did the Giants play in Staten Island and New Jersey? And also, where did they play when the stadium was being rebuilt in 1911?
1911. Well, I'll do first things first. Staten Island, they played right there, right where the Staten Island Ferry comes in, right there.
So where the Staten Island Yankee Stadium is? Just
about.
Okay.
Right about that. They always said you could see them. The Statue of Liberty was done, and the Statue of Liberty right there in the background.
Peter?
In New Jersey, I don't remember where they were. It wasn't Jersey City. I don't remember where it was. I think it was in Middlesex County, if you know where that is,
yeah.
Down towards New Brunswick. I think it was down in that area, and I'm just not coming up with it at the moment. In 1911, a remarkable, you probably know the answer to this one already, but I think it's an interesting point. And thank you for asking that one. 1911, the Polo Grounds burns down. Remarkable. the Giants have been nothing but snide towards the Yankees. The Yankees invite the Giants in until that time that the new Polo Grounds is ready. And in fact, when the Yankees lose their lease on that property at the end of the following season, the Giants invite the Yankees in, by the way, at a hefty $50,000 per year, which paid most of the Yankee payroll.
Bob, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Peter, wasn't the distance to the Eddie O. Grant plaque 505 feet?
I've heard about this. People are saying it was 483 to the split. In other words, the
Yes.
stairs up to the Polo Grounds club.
To the bleachers, right.
You know,
It was
and that
505
also
to the plaque.
and that also makes us consider the similar question. How come when the Mets played at the Polo Grounds, the sign said 475? Did they move home plate out?
Oh.
Well, they couldn't have moved home plate out without moving the foul poles.
Right.
And they didn't move the foul poles. So did they remeasure? And the upshot is nobody knows. I've read all these ballpark books, and that is what they all say. What's the difference? Nobody knows. And it's too late to take a measurement ourselves.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
Jeff, go ahead.
Just a quick question on the Polo Grounds. I heard that the light stanchions are still being used at a stadium in Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Is that
Municipal Stadium.
so where Arizona State plays? That's where those light stanchions are used.
And I
But-
believe the bulbs are being used in the stadium in Williamsport where the Crosscutters play. They have the Little League Classic there. I believe those are the light bulbs from, or at least the fixtures from the Polo Grounds.
Didn't Downing Stadium get something from the Polo Grounds?
I think
No.
Downing Stadium got the Ebbets Field lights.
Ebbets Field.
Yeah,
It's just nice to know that the structure is gone now, but some of the pieces still, history is still being used around the country, which I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Peter, we spoke last week, but I was at the Polo Grounds on Friday. And for anybody who frequents there, they put up some beautiful new signage there about the
Yes.
buildings. And it's in black and orange now. And, it says Polo Ground Towers in black and orange. The buildings have numbers on them that are black and orange, and they weren't like that before. And I know it's just a visual thing, but it looks really nice.
Gary, do you have any pictures you took of that you could post?
I am actually going there next Wednesday, and I'm going to. I could not get out of my car then. There was no parking, but I'm going to go next Wednesday and take a few shots early in the morning.
Thank you.
Has anybody noticed that the subway tile in the IND 155th Street station is done in black and orange? I always hope.
Yes.
Is that just a coincidence?
No,
I don't know,
think it is,
but I've never been able to find a thing. But I hope so. And I hope it always is.
Peter, what exactly are these tours that you did and possibly do? Where do you go?
Well, if you go to my website, newyorkdynamic.com, everything's spelled out, lots of good photos. New York City and baseball. If you're talking about the baseball tours, I suppose most of I have 30 different tours and hundreds of little tangents. 4 of the tours are baseball tours: Baseball Creation and Evolution, Brooklyn and the Dodgers, Jackie Robinson's Brooklyn, and the baseball dynasties. The baseball, obviously, Yankees and Giants. You can't talk about the Yankees. You cannot talk about the Yankees without talking about the Giants because they're so interwoven. You can talk about the Giants without talking about the Yankees, but it leaves big pits. So like it or not, when I do the Giant tour, in order to be thorough, to be comprehensive, I do bring in quite a bit of Yankees.
Where do you go on?
Where do we go? I was just writing about that. Oh, here it is. If I'm just doing something very simple, like I'm supposed to do with Chris Epting when he comes in August, it would just be in the immediate area. Willie Mays' apartment, Edgecombe Avenue. How you could look down and see the scoreboard, that giant picture in 1911. His wife cooked dinner according to what she could see on the scoreboard. Obviously, the brush staircase, the bluff, where we could see more. And I would also point out the rock of the bluff. What kind of rock is it? That is highly significant to baseball history. We didn't get to it, but geology means everything to baseball history. How did we go? How did we go from the bunt to stolen base, hitting behind the runner, to nothing but the 3-run homer? How did that happen? It has to do with that bluff and the kind of rock that undergirds Manhattan Island. We'll talk about that on the tour. Also, Hilltop Park. It's not really that far. I don't go to Yankee Stadium, but I'll certainly discuss Yankees. By the way, how far away is Yankee Stadium? It's 2,500 feet, almost exactly. You know, I always wanted to know exactly how far that was. And I found a photo by accident. I found a photo of the Polo Grounds in Yankee Stadium taken from the air that happened to be from the north. So in the distance, you can easily see Central Park. I didn't know exactly how far across Central Park was, but I know the distance between the avenues, and I know how wide 6th Avenue is and 7th Avenue is. All I had to do was add them up. And if you look at this photo, I have it right here, but I know it won't really come through if I just stick it against the screen here. You see that, where was the Polo Grounds? It was immediately on the other side of 8th Avenue. Remember the elevated? You walk out the center field gate and there you are. That's 8th Avenue. Yankee Stadium, if it extended into Manhattan, would be bisected by 5th Avenue. So how far apart is 5th Avenue from 8th Avenue? Almost exactly 2,500 feet. That's how far your walk was. And when the Yankees played the Giants in the World Series in 1923, the first Yankee Stadium has just opened, what did John McGraw do? He forbade the Giants, hated the Yankees, resented them. He forbade the Giants from dressing or showering at Yankee Stadium. The game ends, you walk out of the dugout and you walk across the bridge or maybe take cabs to the Polo Grounds. You dress and shower over there. How far was it? It's 2,500 feet. It's the same as the distance that you walk when you walk across Central Park. I think that is cool. And when I was 12 years old, that's what I wanted to know. That and how to play a better game of pinball.
Anybody else before Peter continues with a little more history with any questions?
Peter, I had a question for you.
Sure.
About 4 years ago, I went to New York and I wanted to see where Hilltop Park was. And I went to the hospital there and there was supposed to be a home plate.
Yes.
And someone pointed out where home plate was, but it had been re-landscaped. Have they put home plate? It wasn't there when I was there. Is it back there now?
I hadn't heard that they had taken it away. So I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry I can't help you there. I'm very pleased though that they did their best. I'm not sure exactly how they do this, but they did their best to put that home plate right where the original home plate was. And in fact, I was just telling Gary that according to somebody on the internet, somebody posting on a blog, the plaque at the Polo Grounds site, if you're standing, taking a photo, you're standing in the batter's box for lefties. I don't know if that is so, but that is what somebody said. I like to think that's true.
Hindi, go ahead, Hindi.
A few years ago in Cooperstown, I love Christy Mathewson. He's one of my heroes. And I noticed that there was somebody was selling a book that he had written. Do you know anything about him as an author? I didn't buy the book. It was very expensive. And now I'm sorry.
Pitching at a Pinch is very expensive. You can get it on Amazon for $3.
Is that the book? Is that the book he wrote?
Pitching in a Pinch.
Okay.
As in pinch hitter. Pitching in a Pinch is the book he wrote. Now, maybe he wrote some other book that I'd never heard of. I would think that I would have. He wrote Pitching in a Pinch. Tom Seaver used to mention it with some frequency when he was on Kiner's Corner. He said he got a bit of advice from that book now and then. He honored Christy Mathewson. Tom Seaver paid honor to Christy Mathewson. Every so often he'd say, I learned from Christy Mathewson so-and-so in his book, Pitching in a Pinch.
Great. I didn't know the name. Thank you.
Now that book is written by somebody early in the 1900s. So it doesn't read as smoothly as you would hope, but you can figure out what he's saying. Different terminology.
Peter,
I'm glad you asked that.
Peter, the All-Star game takes place next month. How many times was the All-Star game played at the Polo Grounds?
Twice.
It had to, yeah, Comiskey, then the Polo Ground. Yeah, notice. Comiskey Park got the first All-Star game because it was proposed by a guy who wrote for one of the big Chicago newspapers. All right, they got the first. Who got the second one? Wasn't Yankee Stadium.
Polo Grounds.
The Polo Grounds, by all rights, should have had the first one. All right, they got the second one. And then they got that one in, didn't they get the one in the middle of the war? And it had to be
1942.
Yeah,
1942.
and they couldn't turn the lights on. You had to go home. Yeah.
Who'd they take it away from?
Two. Sorry?
Who'd they take it away from in 1942?
Who did they
They
take?
they weren't supposed to get it again. Somebody else was.
That's right. Steve's right. Yeah.
It was Brooklyn. Took it
Why
away
did
from
Brooklyn
Brooklyn
get it?
because they could put more people in the Polo Ground seats. Thank you, Rich.
Oh, yeah. I suppose they did that because they're some kind of some contribution to the war effort, and they want to get as many people in.
Yeah, they could
Yeah.
Andy, this was republished in 2013, $15. Pitching in a Pitch.
I feel certain you can get it for cheaper than I have two copies. I got both of them fairly recently, and I know I didn't pay any $15.
You sure he didn't write a novel that was complete something else?
Yeah,
maybe
he
he
did.
did, but again, I've never heard of such a
This
thing.
is by him.
Okay, thank you.
Pitching in a Pinch. Oh, I'm sure there's more out there. Okay, if there's no question, I'm going to sneak in more commentary here. I just love this stuff.
That's an understatement.
Best signing the Giants ever made. Alex Pompey. I'm told his name is pronounced Pompey, Pompez. Harlem Numbers King, who is scared straight. Also left the numbers racket, but that tells you something. Serious connection through New York City, and in fact, United States, not to mention throughout the Caribbean, as owner of the New York Cubans. The New York Cubans, as of 1943, and for the rest of their existence playing at the Polo Grounds, direct access to Horace Stoneham. By the way, in 1939, the Cubans played underneath the 59th Street Bridge. People like to say the Houston Astros were only the second team to play under a roof. They played underneath the 59th Street Bridge. But anyhow, they moved to the Polo Grounds, 1947. You know what happens. 1948, Stoneham goes to Pompeii. Do you have any connections? How can we get some black players? Well, I would recommend Monty Irvin, done. I'd recommend this guy. He sets up again. He knows all about what's going on in black baseball. The Negro Leagues are dying. He sets up a show game for the Birmingham Black Barons at the Polo Grounds. I think you know where we're going. So that Carl Hubble, director of the Giants minor league system, can get a look at this 18-year-old kid who plays center field. He makes a fabulous throw to second base to turn a sure double into a single. He hits a home run and not down the lines. I have a quote here. I want to get this right. I just happen to have the book here. I didn't think I'd be using this. Carl Hubble. May swung the bat and the heavens opened. He's 18 years old. 2 months later, confirmation from Giant scout Ed Montague. That's the scouting report everybody in the world has heard about, where he says, greatest prospect I've ever seen. He's 18. Get a boatload of money, bring it down here and sign this kid now. Who set all this up? Hall of Famer Alex Pompey, who in short order became very friendly with the administration of the dictator Rafael Trujillo of the Dominican Republic. He had free access. By the way, Pompey was a friendly guy, very personable, bilingual, at ease, and accessible to the world of baseball, black and major league, and to all of the Caribbean. He ran the New York Cubans. And with the Cubans, look at some of the players on the Cubans. Luis Tiant Jr., Cuba. He signed Pedro Cepeda. Daddy, Puerto Rico. And now he's signing all the Dominicans that they can feed him. You know the names. You can come up with 6 like nothing. And then a slew of others. He also played with the Cuban. Martin Di Hugo, said to have been really the greatest player that men of a certain age have ever seen. Al Campanis, Dodger farm guy. You know Al Campanis. Greatest player I've ever seen was not Satchel Paige, was not Josh Gibson. It was Martin Di Hugo of the New York Cubans, who is from Cuba. Mitty Minoso, Lyman Bostock Jr., Ray Noble, Cepeda. He also signed Orlando Cepeda. He was fundamental, Jose Pagan, Willie McCovey, and all those other black and Latin giants that everybody on this board right now can name. And a lot of other guys who wound up with other teams. He's the guy who flushed them out. And he's the guy who taught them, here's what you do to be American. Learn this menu so that you don't only have to order pork chops like Hank Aaron did. Not Hank Aaron, sorry, Andy Ambrose, but you get the idea. Greatest signing Horace Stoneham ever made. Alex Pompey is running the New York Cubans and advising Horace Stoneham. And you know that the Cubans became the only Negro League team to become a minor league team of a major league team. Fantastic. You get the idea. This is one slamming city, New York is. And the New York Giants are cool.
So Peter.
A pleasure.
Peter, talk about, I guess, the end of their time in New York. What was going on with the Polo Grounds? Was it really deteriorating? What was the real situation?
Talk about
the Giants leaving the Polo Grounds. Was the stadium really in shambles, and the area around there? Could you fill us in?
Could it have been worse than Yankee Stadium in the 1970s? I doubt it. My father wouldn't take me to a Met game in 62 and 63 because he was afraid of what would happen to the car around the Polo Grounds. We went to Shea Stadium, but I doubt that it was really as bad as Yankee Stadium was in the 1970s. You're at the bottom of a bluff. Okay, you did have the apartments nearby, but otherwise, you had to walk down and then back up all of those steps. I don't know from any personal experience, and I'm not reading enough, but I do know that Roger Kahn said that it was falling apart, and so did Roger Angel. That the place was. They never said it was falling apart, but they did say that and Robert Creamer said that when the national anthem played, you could see dust. If you had binoculars, you could see dust falling from the big loudspeakers near the clubhouses. So you get the idea that the Polo not very well maintained, and I'm really sorry to say it because I know he was a really nice guy, but Horace Stoneham did not spend money, and he became owner in 1936 when the Giants were still in very tall cotton, depression notwithstanding. Horace Stoneham did not spend money on upkeep.
Steve, go ahead.
And he did not spend enough money on the farm system for way too long.
Just based on a couple, I mean, I went to a few games in 57, but I was a kid. I certainly didn't look at that being run down. We were just amazed that there's something like this in a city with grass. But we have that film, The End of an Era, which I'm sure you've seen. You can see how the grass is unkempt, how the walls are being ripped. Now, I went to a lot more Yankee games because they were in New York. I don't remember Yankee Stadium ever looking as bad as the Polo Grounds did on that last day for the Giants in September of 57. Yankee Stadium, I don't think ever looked that bad. Grass was always well.
I'm sure about that.
The Yankees were wrong.
Now, to my memory,
the Yankees always spent money on the stadium.
To my memory,
the Giants did not.
Hello? To my memory, they had, but on the in-between years between the Giants and Mets, they had stock car racing and soccer games at the Polo Grounds. I went to that.
Correct. Soccer games, right.
And stock car racing.
Yes.
And maybe something else.
Well, boxing matches, the Floyd Patterson Johansson match was at the Polo Grounds. They had quite a bit going on at the Polo Grounds after the Giants. Sorry?
That match were the Mets already in town? Johansson?
No, I think it was about 1960, Steve.
60? Okay.
Then the Globetrotters played at the Polo
and then the Titans came in.
Yep.
The American Football League. Yeah, that was 60. But
And
there
were
things going on.
The last public event, they were already named the Jets. A Jets football game was the last public event at the Polo Grounds in 63.
Yeah. Frank became a Met fan when the Giants left. Did you go to the first Met game at the Polo Grounds, Frank?
Yes, but don't tell my bosses. They may dock my pay.
Regular riot. He's a regular riot, Steve.
You may be familiar with the video. I think it's on YouTube by now. into Howard Cosell, and I remember watching this when I was a kid, the Requiem for a Ballpark. It was on ABC. Well, Howard Cosell, you remember, he worked for ABC. Requiem for a Ballpark. It was pretty good.
It's very good.
Peter, can you tell us more about the ballpark underneath the 59th Street Bridge?
They play tennis there now, at least the last time I looked. It was cinder and ash. And I don't know how high a pop-up could go. It's not like it was 250 feet or so. Like how? Wasn't the Astrodome 210 feet tall, something like that? It certainly wasn't that tall. So I don't know how you could play under there, but I am assured that they did.
It was on the
that's all I know about. Yeah.
It was on the Manhattan side or in Roosevelt?
On the Manhattan side.
Wow.
And you would think that there's not enough room for a ballpark. So I got this information from Ballparks of North America. There's a guy named Philip Lowry who wrote 2 or 3 books. I think they're all by the same title. And then there's another fellow, and his name is not coming to me, Michael Benson. Michael Benson. Lowry and Benson, they're both available. They're not expensive on Amazon. Just look up their names and they'll give you the books. And one or maybe both of them write about this ballpark, but no more than a long paragraph's worth. Not enough juice. And I'm not finding anything on the internet either. But maybe you'll have better luck. Something about that. I want to talk about that Manhattan schist, the bedrock that undergirds the island. Take a look at Manhattan. It's tiny. 2 miles wide, 13 miles long. It's nothing. But there are many buildings on this island. And there's no other island nearly this size on the face of the earth that could stand up to this tremendous weight. But Manhattan can, because it is underlain by that rock. Talk to a construction guy. He'll tell you, this rock is hard as hell. Now, New York City does have subways and it does have basements. You've got to really want it. You need good explosives to cut through it or to blast through it. So, where were the clubhouses at the Polo grounds? Were they dug into the Manhattan schist behind first and third base? No, they were in center field. That is why, and here what you are all thinking of, I hope right now, is a pennant lost. Fred Merkle, 1908. And a pennant won. 1951. The telescope. And I know a lot of Giant fans, I cannot agree with them. They say, well, the telescope had no effect. It didn't help the Giants at all, blah, blah, blah. Come on. If it didn't help them, they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have risked getting caught. And by the way, the Giants, according to Sal Evars, the Giants had that same system set up in every single National League ballpark except one. Guess which one? Ebbets Field. According to Evars, we couldn't have it at Ebbets Field because if we had been caught there, those Brooklyn fans would have murdered us. It may be significant that once that system was set up, according to Joshua Prager, who was a guest of ours a few years back talking about all this, once the Giants had that system set up, and Joshua told us it was in late July, how many times did the Giants play the Dodgers? Well, they played them 7 games at the Polo grounds, including in the playoffs. 7 games at the Polo grounds. The Giants went 6-1 against the Dodgers at the Polo Grounds, 2-4 at Ebbets Field. 6-1 with the telescope, same team, 2-4 at Ebbets Field. Granted, way too small of a sample, I understand. But make of that as you like. And made possible by our friend, it keeps the skyscrapers standing, it keeps Manhattan above water, Manhattan schist. Yes, minerals are our friends. Unless your name is Fred Merkel. But incidentally, Bill Clem, greatest umpire of all time. Bill Clem, not doing the game that day. Bill Clem commenting on the National League decision to replay the game. Horse manure. He said there was no force. That ball is in the outfield. Nobody is worried about a force play. A force play is for a ball in the infield. Bill Clem stuck up for Fred Merkel. Bill Clem, not a friend of John McGraw when it came to baseball matters. Bill Clem said the Giants got robbed. I'm with him. A lot of nonsense.
Peter, I got to tell you, you're really so enlightening on this stuff. You need to, again, say where they could find your information.
I'd love it. And remember that tour idea. By the way, I have hundreds of good photos that I found very interesting, and photos that I had, for the most part, not seen more than once or twice before, and dolphin photos I had never seen before. I have hundreds of such photos that point out all sorts of giant history that for the most part, we have not touched upon. If you would like, I would be thrilled to come back and to run these photos by everybody. Here's what this photo really shows. To me, it's interesting enough just to look at them, much less to talk about their significance. But I do have one problem, and I'm hoping somebody can help. Gary, I did call Chris Epstein and I did email him, but I never heard back from him. I know that he knows how to put photos up so that people in our group can look at them. I wanted to use a bunch of my photos tonight.
Yeah, we tried.
I could not figure out how to do that. If I could get photos on here and do like Chris Epstein did, I would love to do that.
Yeah, gentlemen, what we did last week is we made sure Peter was able to get on here, and I tried to share the screen with him. And I don't know how you do it on your end, but some of you, maybe even John McLaughlin, how Peter would next time be able to show pictures. He couldn't figure out what to do.
I'm not good with technical things. I say the same thing all the time. I can barely make the toast go down, but I am a good listener, and I live where I live. What could be a more convenient location than Little Falls, New Jersey? Anybody who wants to come and jimmy my computer so that I can put up photos to show the group, you are more than welcome. You get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and anything else in the refrigerator. By the way, that's usually what you get. But I would love to have somebody come and do this for me because I am inept when it comes to technical things.
Well, you did a great job. Again, could you tell us your website and where they got to go?
It is newyorkdynamic.com. Everything is spelled out, newyorkdynamic.com. I have 150 baseball photos with explanations, obviously, many of them on the Giants and the Polo Grounds. Also Dodgers, Yankees, Mets. And another 150 and another 150 or so on New York City, just New York history. Yeah.
No, I sent out that link, but I think now that the people have heard you talk, the link would be much more to them. So When
I
I
hope so.
send out the tape of this, I will again send out that link.
And where does the
Go
tour
ahead.
start? Where do the tours start? Where do you meet?
Depends on who's coming.
Okay.
I'll always talk to whoever it is. Usually when somebody wants a tour of the Giants. Well, the first question I ask is, how many people, how old, are they fit? Can they walk a mile or two?
No, where do you meet to start is the question.
It depends on the group.
I mean, if you're doing a tour of the Giants, where do you meet?
It depends on the group.
Okay.
Now, if they can't walk at all, you just meet at the plaque, because that's about all that they're going to be able to do. But if they can walk a lot, I'll probably start at Willie Mays' apartment. By the way, not on St. Nicholas Avenue. Everybody
Terrace.
gets it wrong. It's St.
Terrace.
Nicholas Place. It's
Isn't
the
it Terrace?
first apartment on the eastern side, St. Nicholas Place, not
Okay.
St. Nicholas Avenue.
Well,
Number
I thought
80.
Terrace, St. Nicholas Terrace, but I guess it is. Place.
Those
Right.
two streets split.
Yes,
Right.
I know.
Street
But
and place split.
it's immediately south of the bridge there, Macomb Stamford. Immediately south, it's the first apartment building on the left-hand side. He was on the ground floor. Kids would knock on his window at 9 o'clock. He's having breakfast. Can Willie come out and play? He had two home runs against the Pirates in August of 1951, one Sunday afternoon, and then he played stickball with the kids.
4 more. And hit 4 more.
And he hit one.
Hit 4 more.
The article says he hit one more. So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Four
that
sounds better.
street, part of that street was renamed Willie Mays Place.
Yeah, but it number 80, St. Nicholas Place or Terrace or whatever,
I
not
think it's
the avenue.
Terrace. I think it's Terrace.
But-
It's not Avenue. It's not Avenue. You're
But
right.
that's a very boring way of answering the question. Where do we start on a giant tour? It all depends on how much people can see and what the weather is, what time of year, and so on. Sometimes it's 5 kids. Well, I don't know. And how interested are they? How much do they know about the Giants and about baseball, and how much do they want to learn? So every tour is different.
Steve, you should have got Mark Melanson to go on the tour.
Who?
You should have got him. You met him last year, and after that, it was all downhill.
Oh, Mark Melanson. I did meet him. I
Yeah.
gave him a lot of stuff. I don't think he was interested. It was interesting stuff.
Anybody
Yeah,
else
well-
with a question for Peter?
Or any comments?
Or any comments about?
Oh, let me mention, I will talk. Well, you see, one of my flaws is that I talk too much. But if you're interested in the Giants and you want to chat for a while, just call me. My number's on my website. It's 862-226-1244. Most of the time, you want to talk for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 minutes? Yeah, I'm retired. So most of the time, I'm happy to do it. You can also email me. My email address, if you're interested, is my name, Peter Laskowich @earthlink.net. Peter Laskowich @earthlink.net.
Paul, did you have a
Call,
question?
write, email. I'm around.
Yeah,
Paul,
I
you have
was
a
just,
question?
yeah, no, I was just gonna wonder that it would be nice maybe for, given the nature of Peter's talk tonight, and, for those who are available in New York, is because it's the summer, maybe we could do a tour in New York of the Polo Ground area. That might be nice.
The problem is heat, obviously. And
For
we
sure,
would-
like a day like
we would
today. was
want
real
to-
nice. Pick a
we
day
would
when the
want
weather
to-
is gonna be decent. Yeah,
we would want to do that early.
right.
Early. I'd want to be done by noon.
Paul, maybe, and Peter, the Giants are in town in August. Maybe we could do something when they're in town.
Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah, that
I
could
am
be-
away for a week in August, but yeah, according to the Giants schedule, and if it's not during my
Yeah,
my away time.
The Giants are in town the 24th, 25th, 26th of August.
Is that a
Right.
weekend?
No, it's during the week.
Tuesday,
Oh,
Wednesday.
even better.
So,
I'd love it.
well,
Let's talk
that.
about it.
Anybody else with a question for Peter?
Peter, I just want to know what kind of computer you have.
Toshiba.
If you have an Apple computer, maybe I can help you with pictures, but if it's not an Apple, I can't help you.
It is, hold on just a second. I don't know.
If it's a Toshiba, it's not a Mac. It's a PC.
It's a PC.
Oh, it's a PC. Okay, is that good? Does that make it easier?
That means
Oh,
Get better off with a Commodore 64.
I don't know what. There I am. I have no idea what kind of computer this is, but
I will tell you one thing. For a guy who didn't know what he was doing last week,
Did pretty well.
and how to get on the Zoom, you did a great job
You got the.
getting on here tonight.
I'll see you Tuesday for that card.
Not too shabby, Peter, not too shabby.
Why don't we give it
Very
up
nice.
to Peter? Peter, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Peter.
Way to go, Peter.
And you know you're always welcome here, and we'll definitely talk about maybe doing that tour. when the Giants come
let's do more and more. I'm going to stick around on this screen, so if anybody wants to talk, I'll be right here. But thank you, everybody. It's been a joy.
Peter, you were really fabulous. I'm so glad you were able to do this tonight. So thanks again from all of us.
Anytime.
The rest of you, we will not be meeting next week. We will resume on July 8th with Phil Mushnick, which should be a fabulous get-together. Have a great 4th of July holiday, everybody, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Good night, Gary.
Thank you.